Hello everybody, Lee717 here. This is just a short appendum to my OpenBlox LP. I've compiled all my findings on this game, both good and bad, and stuff I've just learned about. And this is just kind of like an overview. If you don't want to watch the gameplay, or you just want a too long, don't care version, this is it. Well, I'm just going to start with the negative, because I'll give the bad news first, and then go to the good news. The game uses... Well, first, this is coming from both a developer and a end-user standpoint. I'm a program developer, so I may see things you may not. But then end-user, how non-developers may see it. And you might find stuff that I didn't like, or didn't see, or you may disagree on some of these points, but... this is just what I found. They showed on their website their new installer, and I've done those a lot, so I know how those work. Now it takes a while to install. What happens, it has to download and install the Panda 3D SDK, the run, because they install the Python scripts that's made the run with that game engine, and it downloads that and runs the Python script. Nothing wrong with that. I'm okay with download installers to a point. One thing I found, though, they quote on their website, it takes about 2 to 5 minutes to download. It took closer to 10 minutes for me well, actually, probably 7 minutes-ish to download, and then installing it all probably was 12-15 minutes to do it all. But that 2 to 5 minute download, I've got a 4 megabit per second download, and it was longer than that, so a bit deceiving. It's not something you really bash them on. They might have faster internet, whatever. The installation instructions, although it's pretty straightforward, they're buried on that wiki. And I was presented with a question from the Panda 3D installer, an optional thing. I didn't know what to do. I had found it on the wiki before, but because it was buried, I couldn't find it again, so I just agreed to do this optional thing. Thought it might need it. Turns out it didn't. Then, after it finished all that, their README popped up at the end of the installer, which said, you can safely skip this step. I'm like, oh, great. Wish I'd known that clearer. So, they kind of need to make the installation instructions a bit clearer. This one I actually just learned about today, and I am super, super upset about this. And this is where that developer standpoint comes in. Of course, it's already been coming in, but heavily developer point comes in. The game relies on a batch script to run, because I said it runs the Panda 3D SDK exe, which loads their Python script. However, the batch script requires the Panda 3D to be in your system path. So, how does it get it in your path? Well, you can use batch commands to temporarily append it. So when you click it, it just appends it so it can run, and then it removes it. Or, it can modify the system path directly, since it's just stored as a registry string. That's what the Panda 3D installer did. And I didn't learn about this until today. Well, actually, I'll say it did that, but their batch script didn't work. But I didn't learn about this till today. It edited my system path, and it actually cleared it. As in, I had a bunch of stuff in it: Python, Windows, System32, Intel, Nvidia, HP, a bunch of stuff was in it. I find out today, because that it was edited because I couldn't run Python using the Python path command. And it turns out the Panda 3D installer removed everything and put just itself there. Yeah. Then, I was angry about that, so I uninstalled OpenBlox, and then I uninstalled Panda 3D, which was separate. And I found out my system path was blank. So it didn't. What they did, they opened the string wrong. They didn't. The Panda 3D, it opened it wrong instead of appending to it or reading the whole thing, appending it, and then rewriting it. It just opened it, cleared it all, and wrote it itself. And same way when it uninstalled. So I was seriously upset about that. Then that's actually not something related to OpenBlox, but if the developers knew that, they would be probably more inclined to change their installation routine, shipping routine, to avoid that at all costs. Thankfully, there's another Windows 8 machine. I was able to grab the the path from there. Nothing's broken yet, but I am so not happy about that. And I do know it was the Panda 3D installer because I looked through the entire OpenBlox source code, and there was nothing related to registry strings. I was actually considering running the 0.7 and 0.8 builds to find their level builder, and play Mystery Canyon, but not anymore. Another one is, this is point number 5, as you saw in the video. It crashes if you can't read the log. The log's probably created with the installer, and since it couldn't read it, it just crashes. That's poor scripting. You just remake it. It lacks branding of any sort. Number 6, it just, what are you playing? We don't know. It's just something. Number 7, that download, that was a release version 0.62 that they said fixed Windows 7 compatibility. Did you see all those scripting errors? I did. I noticed them heavily. That's comes the poor coding, and then number 8 would be the physics, the character controller, the camera. And then 9 would be the single 3D model for the whole game. It's just kind of poor planning, poor foresight, just kind of a poor work, and I'll get on a little bit about that later. But I know they also have a beta, but sometimes, and some betas can be very buggy, but for them to have advertised it a lot, at least on their site, have documentation set up and everything, and to be like that. Number 10 is the falling, just the constant falling. 11, no way to restart the game or the levels aside from crashing it. You saw I kept having to press a shortcut key in the command window to close it, or at one point I had to actually close the windows. There needs to be some way to close it properly. 12 would be poor documentation. I said the wiki was an absolute mess. A lot of pages are missing. It's very buried. Stuff is duplicated, or stuff that should be in one place is in another. 13, there's no sign of that advertised level builder. They had it on their website, like, you get a new level builder. Just there's no sign of it. This is also one I probably can't hit them on too hard, because on their wiki, somewhere in there, I saw something on, this is how you make a level. This is not needed after 0.7, except, so past that you might just be more for advanced. So that's probably why I couldn't find it. 14, one of their biggest advertisements is the ability to share the levels with just a single file. You saw I couldn't play Mystery Canyon in the release, which is 0.62, because it was probably built for a 0.7, it was built for a 0.7 or 0.8, and they had some major scripting changes. They, as I pointed out, it tried to use, they tried to, something with an integer when it was actually a decimal. I forget right now. That's due to the other changes. And then Ultra Slide, that fan one, it probably can't be played in 0.7 or 8, because it was built for 0.6 and before. So if I had that release and tried to load that Ultra Slide, I'd probably get an error about can't use a decimal on a integer. And there's no level or check version. There's no level/game version check of any sort. So like this version is built. This game is built for 0.6.2. You can't play it on this. You need to get that version. No, there's nothing. If it'll try to load it, but it'll crash. That's the down points. Now here are some good points that I was able to pick out of all this. Actually, a whole team of people worked on this. Probably there's like 5 people who worked on all this. I don't know of all when. It's just listed in their developers of who did what, of who contributed to this. And so for a team effort, this is pretty good. It's not the best, like I said, but a team effort, especially on this. And a lot of fan games never really make it this far. Now, it's probably a bit harsh, but I'm thinking, but if you go look on SourceForge for, actually I found OpenBlox by searching Lego. I found a, open source Rock Raiders remake that they got a bunch of API documentation, I don't know, something code documentation, no actual game. There's some project called Open Lego Island that's never done anything. And so they were, and the people on this were trying to improve Roblox. So for them just to even have gotten this far, despite it's bad, that's still really good. And then go back to the team, a team of people working on this to try to improve Roblox. That's still good. It's open source, so actually anyone, if they really wanted to, could go in, read their code, and contribute fixes to improve it even more, to improve it. And see, I'm a big fan of open source, so I wouldn't, I can't bash them on that. I mean, the potential that someone could come and help you, oh yes. And number 4, I probably shouldn't end on this one, but it was actually kind of fun to play this game. I had played it completely before I did the Let's Play, but I actually kind of had some fun. Not fun as in, oh, this is fun because it's well built, it's funny, funny related to story writing, or animations or anything, but fun in the sense that it's a bad game, but I laughed. It's, I don't know, pity laugh? No, it wasn't. I enjoyed this, despite all these issues with it. So, that's my appendum to this Let's Play. The game is really badly written and made and built. It's got a lot of potential, a lot of errors, and even potential errors, as I mentioned with the level sharing. But there are good points, and like I said, I actually kind of enjoyed this game. That being said, I do not recommend you play this. Simply because that whole system path issue right there, now that wasn't OpenBlox's fault immediately, but I don't want your computer to be messed up like that. And somehow all my restore points strangely disappeared, and I know I had them, so I can't even revert my path to its previous state. So I've played this game for you and let you know of these errors. That being said, if you do wish to play it, please let me know. I'd love to hear your take on this game known as OpenBlox. And thus, this is the end of my very first Let's Play.